life, but even though one world is based in reality and the other world is fantasy, both worlds have been ruled by confusion, turmoil, times violence, at times, certain times last year and a half, very little tranquility. The heavyweight champion of the world is astonishing in his application of athletic gifts. Once he gets into the ring, few fighters in history have been as awesome and thorough in inflicting punishment. He is in the hurting business, that's the way he once put it. And though boxing has never been a sport known for great compassion, Mike Tyson had a rare mix of love of his sport, reverence for its heritage, and became an avid student of all of it. But with his fame at an early age came tragedy, losses of his mother, then father figures Customato, Jimmy Jacobs, and has chronicled his stormy relationship with his ex-wife, the press, and it seems at times the struggle to battle his own demons. His war was with himself, a war his self-destructive side seemed to be winning. Today, Mike Tyson, he's back, and he'll fight Frank Bruno February 25th at the Las Vegas Hilton with new management and a new image. The old questions, was it too soon? Can Tyson settle down and reassume his reign as the greatest young fighter of his generation? We'll find out today. Mike, it is good to see you again. Thank you for coming by. Appreciate it.
My pleasure.
There is a motto in a gym that I work out in, and it says this: there is no such thing as staying in shape. You either work to get better or you allow yourself to get worse. I don't know if you agree with that, but if you do, how did you work to get better, and how did you allow yourself to get worse in the last 6 months?
Well, in most situations, let me go to the bad end, because I really didn't allow myself to get worse. It's just that it's been drawn totally out of, content, if you want to put it in that fashion, because basically, you know, you're getting the little troubles here and there, but then again, you think about it, if somebody took a magnifying glass and just penetrated on you and looked into every little thing and every little dirt you did, people are bound to find some dirt and make something out of this, you know what I mean? I can't help the fact of who I am. I just enjoy being myself and doing the things 22-year-old kids do.
Let's take a look at a couple of cartoons. The first one was something that's pretty direct. This, I think, was in KO magazine, and what it said basically is, the question was, who is the only man who can knock Mike Tyson out? Who can defeat Mike Tyson? And of course, there's you knocking you out. The answer was Mike Tyson, and he's doing a pretty good job of it. Did your image, real or imagined, outside the ring, hurt you as a fighter?
No, I wouldn't believe so. Not at all.
You had once said that you liked living on the edge. That's the one thing you missed from being a kid when you weren't a champion. You enjoyed every day the craziness, the nuts stuff, you know, the insanity of running around wherever. You enjoyed that aspect of your life. Still mean that?
Yeah, well, basically, at that time in my life, you know what I mean, I was a very radical kid, and I didn't have cuts, or I didn't have no sense of direction, even though cuts, it was very disturbing knowing cuts was going and Jimmy wasn't there. And I was just, like I say, basically, I was living on the edge. And
did you seek to find that again of late, recently? Do you think you wanted to try to find that?
No, I'm independent of myself now. You know what I mean? Basically, I'm not looking for anyone to lay my head on their shoulders or anything. I'm just basically, after going through all the turmoil, I'm just realized I'm happy with myself. And I don't need a psychiatrist. There's nothing wrong with me. You know what I mean? I'm just feeling totally magnificent.
As a celebrity, you live in a fishbowl. You're one of the most famous people in the world, certainly one of the most famous athletes in the world. And I think you can deal with the fact that people are going to write stuff from time to time, stuff that you may not agree with or even like. But ridicule is something else. We're going to take a look at some cartoons. This one from the cover of the National Lampoon. And of course, there's Robin in the background, you in the foreground with tears in your eyes. And then we could take a look at some of the other things. And it ceases to be just fun. It starts to become almost mean-spirited, almost, in some cases, racist, I feel. How do you deal with ridicule, Mike?
Well, I was thinking, I look at some of these things, and I think people are really doing this because they believe this is their job, and they try to do the best they possibly can. Like you say, some people are vindictive.
Now look at that one. That one is particularly nasty. It has you effectively murdering your wife. Your ex-wife.
Yeah, man, that's, what can I say, it's embarrassing to me also. And as you know, Robin's a beautiful woman, and they have her looking like a He-Man here.
Well, they have you and Robin as one, I guess, yeah, in this picture. Do you shed tears? Is it painful for you, this kind of stuff?
I'm going to tell you something, Bruno. I'm cried out, man. I cried so many times, and I can't cry anymore. Believe me, I'm so cried out.
Is that from the pressure, the anxieties that the press causes, that you have caused yourself at times? I mean, in terms of the way your life has gone?
Say that. It's just that I believe Robin has put just a tremendous amount of pressure on me. You know what I mean? And I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm just that kind of person, and I'm just a solid individual, more solid than I know, and that's what I learned a lot about myself during this time period. I mean, how much of a solid person I am. And I don't even know it. It's just there, you know. Even when I want to give up, my self-reliance, you know what I mean, self-consciously won't allow me to. You know, it just won't allow me to give up.
Larry Holmes said in the last year, about a year ago, right before your fight with him, that there was no doubt in his mind that you would return to jail. In the last 6 months, with all of it, the slapping incidents, the late-night brawls, the alleged tirades with Robin, the nasty altercations with TV cameras, do you think that you were ever in danger of actually going back to jail?
No, not at all. Not at all.
How has real life tested you, though, in ways that boxing couldn't?
Because I'm dealing, you know, I mean, inside I'm totally in control of the situation. Ring, you know, there's just a certain amount of moderation as far as discipline is concerned. You know what I mean? You're in control in the ring. It's something that you're prepared for. You're training months and months for, and then you go in there, and then it's like a diagram. Everything's written out, and everything's planned to do. Outside is just the unexpected, so constantly. You know what I mean? Lurking around, and you don't know what's going to happen day by day. That's how you count the Lord for your blessings, because you're really not promised tomorrow, and anything can happen. As far as that's concerned.
Let me play devil's advocate for a few moments. What about the young guy who admired Mike Tyson, young fighter? Boy, I love Tyson. I love his focus. I love his love of the sport. I love his respect for the champion, for being the champ, for knowing all of the great history of the sport. Then he picks up the paper, and he sees Mike Tyson up at 4 o'clock in the morning at Dapper Dan's getting in a fight with a guy like Mitch Green, and he said, how could Mike Tyson do this? How could he do this to what he admired about the sport and the champion, being the champion? Isn't it beneath him, all of this? What do you say to that kid?
Well, you know, if he ever admired me, the kid never knew me as a person, because perhaps he never had a chance to meet me. Of course, we're playing the devil's advocate. And if he liked me for those qualities that you just mentioned, that doesn't diminish by any incident I had with Mitch Green or anything.
But don't you think that you demeaned your position, that you lowered yourself, in a sense, even that one time, by being out and running around and getting caught up in all this stuff?
It was a mistake that I made at the time, but I think gradually I'm going to be myself and do what basically Mike wants to do. So if I want to go to an all-night joint, I'm going to do it if I want to do that. You know, like I said before, nobody dictates my life, you know what I mean?
The same thing about drinking and maybe eating too much and putting yourself 30, 40 pounds on, whatever it was?
I mean, that was going through my stress time, you know. But what comes out, you look at me now, I'm 220 pounds 3 weeks before the fight. And I feel great. I mean, emotionally, I feel magnificent. And I'm happily, I want to, you know, I mean, I'm going to be a divorced man soon. And I'm just happy about the whole situation.
I must tell you, I was at the Lalonde fight with Mike Tyson, and he did have about a 30-pound extra tube on his stomach. It's gone now. He looks like he's ready to go. He'll be fighting Frank Bruno February 25 at the Las Vegas Hilton. We'll come back, talk about the Spinks fight and what he did during that fight right after this.
On Sports Look, receive Franklin's Language Master, world's only dictionary, thesaurus and phonetic spelling corrector. All words by Merriam-Webster. From Franklin, first in electronic reference.
I lucked out, he said. There is no way I could perform at this high a level now. I was lucky to beat Michael Spinks, he said. I don't know what would happen in that situation against a real hungry guy. Mike Tyson said that immediately after knocking out Michael Spinks in 91 seconds last June. Before we take a look at the tape, how is it possible you could say you were lucky based on that performance? People would say that was the most mismatched, overwhelming performance we've seen in years, maybe in this generation.
Well, I said it, you know, I mean, because of that incident, I wouldn't want to come off as, you know what I mean, egotistical or braggadocious, you know what I mean? He was a great fighter, you know what I mean? And when an incident like that happens, you don't take it's just very difficult for me to take credit over something like that against a great fighter like Michael Spinks, you know what I mean? for him to be obliviated like that. You know, it's very difficult.
You proved one thing more than anything else in this fight, that you were in control in that ring, maybe more than in the rest of your life. With that ferocity and that performance, do you think there was a statement to the public and to the press that night that you made?
Well, at the particular time, you know, what I was going through was totally unbelievable, an uproar. I mean, people, the odds went down incredibly, a large amount. Thinking that
a lot of people picked Spinks to beat you that night.
Yeah, well, then they had a lot right because he's a great fighter, as you know.
Did you see fear in his face?
Well, I wasn't paying attention. I was just sitting there to fight. I just wanted to fight and show the world what I can do. Even though I know I was undisputed champion, this is the time to show everyone. This fight was either make me or break me, regardless of... Out of all the 34 fights or everything I had, my career was on the line here.
Butch Lewis and a number of other people tried to psychologically put you on edge, and immediately you took the fight to Spinks. Were you trying to say something to Lewis or Michael?
Well, not at all. It's just that I want to fight, you know what I mean? And I knew by any chance, people think the more upset they get me, it's easy for them to talk to me and say what they're going to do, and I'm going to get my butt kicked, or that man's going to beat me up, because they're not in there with me. So they can say all they want. But I know he's in there, and he's going to suffer for what they said.
You saw Michael the other day, Michael Spinks.
Yeah.
How did he look?
Well, you know what I mean? You know, Mike, he's basically a quiet, happy guy. I mean, he looked thinner than the last time he fought. I mean, he looked thin, maybe because of his clothes. He looked very thin.
You have a way of taking the starch out of people anyway, I think. You once told me, Mike, that fear was your friend, that you used fear to become a better fighter. What do you fear these days? Do you fear anything in the ring these days?
Well, I say it's fear because it's an adrenaline and your heart's boiling and you're just so psyched, and it's your imagination playing so many absurd tricks with you. The guy becomes so much bigger. He becomes so much better, faster. Everything he does is so much better than you. And then when you're in the ring, you find out he's just a man like you with 2 arms and legs. And the preparation you put in here, and from your past performance, you know why I'm the greatest fighter in the world, and this is my domain. It's just, I refuse to believe there's anyone that can beat me.
One other thing, before we move on, and this may be a bit self-indulgent, but it's a story that I think bears repeating. Right after he beat Michael Spinks, 91 seconds, in a devastating performance, Mike Tyson came into the press room and didn't look at any of the reporters, didn't look at any of the writers that were there, came up to me, walked up to me, and with all the things going on in his mind, what did you say? What did you tell me? You remember what you said?
I was so impressed, you know what I mean? And
not with me, and that's not what I'm trying to say here.
But I was just so impressed with the fact that you put your father on the show, and you and your father on the show, and I had no idea your father was so knowledgeable. Not only about boxing, but all sports.
Well, the thing that touched me about this was with all the stuff that was going on that night, you thought enough to come up to me and talk about my father. Was a very sensitive thing, and it also said something about your love for the sport of boxing, because he loved the sport of boxing as well.
Well, of course, because I'm a fanatical fan. You know what I mean? People wouldn't believe because they don't know me, like you say, and that's the biggest confusion, because people just don't understand and know me.
It just blew me away that night.
It's just I'm a total groupie when it comes to fighting, total groupie, and to hear your father be knowledgeable, like I said. After I watched a whole bunch of shows, only 2 shows that really hit my heart and made me, you know, emotional. And it was, both shows was yours, and it was with your father, and it was with Bobby Chez. And they were just
Bobby Chez talking about his father's suicide.
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah. We're going to come back, talk about the Frank Bruno fight, which comes up February 25th with Mike Tyson. We'll do it right after this. He is 35-0, just 22 years old, and made a record for one night of boxing. $22 million for a single purse. One of the reasons why a lot of fighters get in line to fight this guy, Mike Tyson, heavyweight champion of the world, is our guest. On the 25th, you'll be fighting Mr. Bruno, Frank Bruno. On the night of your victory of Michael Spinks, over Michael Spinks, Bruno talked about the prospects of fighting you, and of course, at that time, he thought he was fighting you in Britain. Here's what Frank Bruno said about fighting Mike Tyson.
I've got 14 pounds weight advantage over Mike Tyson. I've sparred with him before. I've not like the other fellows, but I ain't seen him before. Never worked with him, never felt his power. I sparred with a guy called Oliver McCord before I was supposed to fight Trevor, before he had his back injury, and I'm confident that I could beat him and stop him.
But you had to be impressed with what you saw with Tyson.
Not really, because I was...
Not really?
No. I was talking to Hurricane Hadley, Oliver McCall before, you know what I mean, the fight, and they said he's going to steamroll him, and I said, I think so as well. You know what I mean, he's going to steamroll him, and then the press is going to jump on that he's King Kong, he's unbeatable again. But there's only one, everybody's a human being. You're a human being, I'm a human being. There's only one God, you know what I mean, there ain't no more King Kongs.
He didn't seem very impressed. Are you impressed with him in the ring?
Well, and again, there's a line of good fighters out there, but like he said, there's only one God,